All right, it's about 3 o'clock, so might as well go ahead and get started. So, thank you for joining me again. And if you're tuning in live, if you want to say hi in the comments, I always love seeing who is out there. I see that Bonnie's already said hi. So, anyway, uh, first of all, I'm going to apologize because they're doing some construction outside of my house. And so you might hear my dogs bark or you might hear the actual construction going on out there. So, anyway, just to kind of let you know when you hear that stuff in the background. But anyway, so I'm going to continue my weekly kind of live stream journaling, and I've been working in that little book that I worked in all of May. I haven't worked in it outside of the live stream, so it's really kind of been interesting just to see how it's been developing. So um, anyway, yeah, let me go ahead and I'm going to switch over the camera and I'll go ahead and get started. If you want to work along with me, awesome. It's always great whenever folks tune in and kind of work on their own thing. And just remember, if you have questions or comments, please pop them into the comments, and I'll be more than happy to try to answer them. So let's go ahead and switch this over. All right, so I've got my little journal, and like I said, I haven't really done much in it. Well, actually, I haven't done anything in it since last week. Last week, I worked with some words, worked on this spread a lot with the profile, worked on this, and really was just kind of building up and kind of working more in the back part of the journal. And then today, as always, I kind of sat down before going live and just was like flipping through it. And I love flipping through things because it it gets my mind going, and just allows me to sort of revisit what I've done, and then allows me some time to think about what I want to do next, where I want to go with things. And so as I was flipping through, it's like, oh, a lot of this up front looks very resolved, as I like to say. But then I got to this point, and I just was starting to feel like, oh, I haven't had a chance to really develop these pages very much. This is getting developed a lot, but I, I think like content wise, like with words and such, yeah, there's stuff going on, but there's not a lot of complexity, not like some of the other pages, which I tend to sort of, I don't know if overwork is the right term, but I tend to add a lot of layers to my work. So I feel like this is just a little bit, like, I don't know, I just feel like things are a little bit sparse on especially these sort of 3 or 4 spreads. So I'm going to work on here just to kind of build up some layers, and probably use some of my Inktense pencils, and maybe some ink. I don't know. We'll see where we go. But because I have my hole there, I've got my little scrap of paper, and this is the same one that I've used. So it's like I've used this before with that circle, and I just love the buildup of these random kind of things going on. So that's just a great way to protect the surface underneath, because I want to bring a little bit more emphasis. I mean, I love the circle. I love seeing that web through there, but I do want to bring a little bit more emphasis to that outer circle. So I'm going to do that. And I think I'll do it with this red that I have here. And then this red is different than like the reds and stuff that I've used over here. So hopefully it'll like kind of help it pop out a little bit more. But just going to use that technique that I really love to do of shading, being a little bit darker near the shape. And again, this is just great because if I go into that little space, I'm not making a mark on the page in front of it. Now the nice thing is that this is a magazine picture, so it's a little bit glossy. So as I spread the paint, it's not really gonna cover, or not really gonna get on top of the magazine. Okay. So I'm really shading this out, taking my time, maybe a little bit longer than I typically would, because I really want this to spread. And if I get a lot of pigment down, then that's going to really help out. All right, so I'll take my paintbrush and then work that out. Again, that pigment can spread. I can spread it pretty far. And because I have that little scrap index card underneath, I don't have to be super neat and super careful. So I could spread this pigment pretty far. Okay. And so it just kind of, brings a darker, brighter red around that circle. Really helps it kind of pop out. I am going to hit that with the hair dryer just so that it doesn't mess up the magazine over here. So I'll go ahead and mute it. All right, so yeah, so I'm liking that. I'm going to add more to this, but I'm going to just kind of jump ahead. I was thinking, let me see. I think it was here. Or maybe, I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to grab some of my punchinella. I've got a couple different sizes. Let me grab the bigger one. And got some greens. Let me grab, I'm going to use my Inktense pencil. I'm just going to trace some of these circles. And I'm going to paint over it. So I'm going to press hard, try to get like a real dark line as I draw it. I don't know. I don't think this is the same green that I used for the little leaf shapes, but it could be. I don't know. Don't remember exactly what the color was that I used. I'm going to add some more. So I'll just line up. There's a little circle there that I'll line it up on. You know what, I think bring a couple of these over into the brain. Okay. Yeah, so this is a slightly darker green than I used for the little leaf shapes. So just like how painting a little bit of water over it just softens the lines and spreads a little bit of the pigment around and just kind of creates a subtle texture, subtle pattern that just sort of fades into the background. But what's nice is that it's on top of things like the brain, and even I put it on top of that red construction paper there. All right, I'll hit that with the hair dryer. So I'm just thinking that today's going to be just kind of a day to play around with the materials, build up a few more layers, just flipping to see. I love being able to repeat ideas, tie things together. I really like these little rectangles, so I think I want to find a space, um, maybe here. Might be interesting to have some rectangles across the top. But what color should they be? I just picked up a black, so I think they're going to be black. When I do little repeated rectangles and squares like this, it always reminds me of film, like film strips or movie film, or even thinking about photography film. And just thinking about the little sprocket holes that are in the film. I think folks that are growing up now, where basically your camera has always been in your phone, just don't know the struggles of using film in a camera. Actually, I'm going to really sort of play up that film idea. Sorry, I'm just kind of chuckling. I still remember whenever 1 hour photo labs were a thing. And you found that amazing. Like, oh, you could drop off your film and you'll get your pictures back in an hour. Of course, you had no idea what they looked like. You just sort of hoped and prayed that they would turn out well. Okay. I'm just thinking, let me go back. I want to see what else I've done up here in the front. See, I painted lines on here and I used some ink tents to create lines. There's some more lines. I think I haven't really done, have I done that? I did it here. Maybe I'll figure out a place. Maybe it'll be interesting to do it here. Again, use that little scrap of paper just to keep it clean. So I'm using the color red oxide, which is kind of a reddish, rusty kind of color, but it ties in with the reds and the red violets that I've used on this page already. hit that with the hair dryer. All right. To be honest, I'm feeling really tired today. Um, I've been in the studio most of the day, just sort of working on a drawing where I was doing a lot of shading, and I was finding that that was very productive, but it was a very kind of slow, steady kind of thing. So I was looking at this. I started this web design and never finished it, and but I kind of feel like that kind of slow and steady kind of thing is kind of what I need right now. So I think I'm going to turn back to that. So this was something that I had started, back in May, and somebody had requested it. But it's this web kind of imagery is something that I've done a lot. Ties into neurographic art, and what I do is I just created this web, and it was sort of this random just random lines, kind of thinking of like mapping lines, like roads. And then I just round off all the sharp corners. Sometimes I add new little lines. I just find that sometimes when my energy is really low, that this is just a kind of a nice thing, kind of getting into those what I call meditative marks, and this can be very kind of meditative. Yeah, I don't know if you can hear the rumbling of the big trucks outside. They're resurfacing our road. So I really consider things like this kind of that notion of embellishing. Um, Definitely slows down, takes a lot longer, but then, like I said, it's just that kind of great, great way to slow yourself down physically. I also find that these types of things are really good um, when you don't want to or don't need to like think too much about it. Um, so like kind of when you're sitting watching some TV or have a movie on or you're listening to a podcast or an audiobook, it it doesn't take all of your attention. So I kept this paper in there because I wanted to continue this around the circle. Yeah, today was one of those days where I just kind of felt like I really wanted to just to lie down and take a nap. But I just kind of, I'm like, yeah, but I just want to work, want to do something. So sitting down, working on this drawing that been working on. Like I said, I was just able to shade, not really do a lot of thinking about it. I just put on an audiobook and uh, just I did that for a few hours. So it's like even though I didn't have a lot of energy, it was just sort of nice to kind of sit quietly listening to the book and just let the pencil work around the page. So that's kind of how I'm feeling now. So when I'm doing this web, I'm trying to, I have that one rule, no sharp corners. So I just round off all the corners. But then the other thing I think about is the thickness of my line. And so I'm always going back over top of the lines that I initially draw. Makes them a little bit thicker, but then on some of them I try to really thicken up the line. And that way you just have a variety of thicknesses. That just makes it more interesting to look at. That idea of, just a little bit of variety. So this little line here, I'm just, I've worked to make it a little bit thicker than the others. And sometimes just, let's throw in an extra line. And that's the other thing, is to have some bigger shapes and then some little shapes too. So one of the nice things about coming back and revisiting this web is that I develop it a little bit more, but I've been going over top of the red construction paper that I had glued in, and that red paper was sort of just floating on top. And so by painting over it, I can see a little bit of the paint on it, and then adding the lines to it just really help that red collage become a part of the page and no longer just floating on top. And I don't know if folks are aware of the new project that I had launched this week. I really meant to do a lot more promoting of it, but I'm very bad at promoting things. So on Mondays, I'm doing what I call Mixed Media Monday, and I'm pre-recording it. So I just sit down, and the goal is to do like a 30-minute, no more than 30 minutes, and just do a small mixed media piece. So I did a couple. Well, I have one that's aired, and I pre-recorded another one to come out next Monday, and I'm just working with small 4x4 inch pieces of paper and just doing mixed media on them, and just that notion of using some simple materials and some simple techniques to create layers. And so that comes out on YouTube, and so if, I take all these live streams and share them on YouTube, but then I also post other things on YouTube that I don't post here on Facebook. I'll share them here on Facebook. So the Mixed Media Monday thing I shared on Monday. So if you haven't seen that, you can always find that link and go check it out. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can just go to my videos and find it and check it out there. So the sort of the impetus for that was, doing the live streams with this little book. That's great, but I think what happens is that it's become, this is like one big series of all these different things. So right now, counting the ones I've done in June, it's like 20. I think this is the 24th day of working in this little book. So to really appreciate it, it's like you almost have to sit down and watch it. And many of you have, and you've either joined in live or you've watched the recorded videos. But if you're just coming to it, you might feel a little bit lost if you're watching it for the first time. Whereas the Mixed Media Monday is just, it's a different little project each week. And just that notion of, you don't need a lot of time, 30 minutes, and it's amazing what you can do. Yeah, there's still more I can do, but it's just one of those things where I do a little bit at a time. And let's go back over and check these out. So again, even though this is really getting developed with the words and such, I still feel like it's a little sparse. So I'm thinking I want to do something over here. And just doing that with my hand, I'm like, oh, maybe I need to grab my ink tints and do some lines. I think I'll go back to the Shiraz. That's the same color that I used around the rectangles and I used over here. It ties in with this color, the magenta that I used for the circles there. Okay, let's hit that with the hair dryer. Just realized I forgot to unmute myself when I was talking. So what I was saying as I was pointing to this is that I was looking at this word stardust here, and I used this gel pen, and I don't know whether it's wearing off a little bit because gel pen isn't necessarily permanent, and it can be it's not waterproof. It can wear off, and then it's on top of the tracing paper, so that can kind of affect it. So I just kind of feel like I want to go back over it. And then when I did it, and this was back in May, I just did it real fast. I outlined it and added the silver and the black very quickly, and I didn't take my time. Actually, let me let that dry a little bit. I was just thinking if that's the only silver, it's kind of odd. So let's go ahead and think about other places that I can do silver. I was just thinking, like, do I want to do it in the circles? But I almost want to do it on top of the the text. So I think I'll do lines, little stripes. That's going to echo the stripes that I drew in with the Inktense pencil. You can really see that on the video there, and I think it's just because it's really catching the light. So, but I'll go back over it with some black ink here in a little bit. And do some of these circles. So now I can go back and just really take my time when I'm outlining it with the black. Maybe make it a little bit thicker around each letter. And that should really help that word Stardust stand out. I'm going to do the same thing for the stripes and the circles. Even though the silver stands out, especially when the light hits it, um, this just really helps create that contrast, really make them stand out even more. It also repeats that thick black line. Okay, so I think that's a good stopping point. I mean, just looking at this little spread, I mean, it just adding the ink tints and then going back with the silver and black, just kind of help bump it up a little bit. It's not quite as sparse looking. Same thing here with the little circles. I still feel like this needs some additional things. Um, Same thing with this. I mean, I'm liking kind of the film strip effect, but yeah, there's definitely more I want to add to that. And then that's developing pretty well too. So just kind of confine myself to a few spreads, but yeah, I'm liking how they're developing. So anyway, let me go ahead and switch this back. Yeah, so sometimes I think with art and especially with journaling, it can just be sort of a quiet time. I know a couple people said that they look forward to coming here and kind of working on things, and I think sometimes you need to slow down, or you want to slow down, or you're just kind of tired and kind of feeling low energy, but you can still be productive. And not to say that you always have to do that, always have to be productive, but I think sometimes it art can be that kind of like just taking some time to slow down and kind of work on some things. So anyway, I appreciate you being here, and as always, if you have any questions or comments or concerns, pop them in the comments, and I try to go back and read through them and answer them and respond to them. So anyway, I really appreciate you being here, and as always, happy creating.